welcome. Today we're going to talk a little bit about our hamstring muscles. Those are the muscles at the back of the legs that can often feel tight or restricted, especially if you're spending a lot of time standing, if you are an athlete and you're doing weightlifting, or perhaps you're running or cycling. We use our hamstrings for any kind of activity, really. It's one of those muscle groups that holds us upright. So to treat it with a little bit of love, help to be able to get into the fascial web that we have in this area and into the muscles. A great way to find more freedom from these restrictions is myofascial release. Now, I particularly like these balls with this texture. I use the rad roller balls, and I also have yoga tune-up. These ones that I have today are the yoga tune-up balls. Now, what's great about these particular ones is that they have a little bit of give, but they're still quite firm, and the texture that's on the outside of the ball grips lovely onto the skin if you're not if it's in an area that's not clothed. So that's a great option. The rad roller balls are a great option as well. I know that Yoga Medicine paired with rad roller, and they created a ball that is a little bit softer as opposed to rad's more firm balls that they use. And if you don't have access to any myofascial balls, this is just something you want to try and decide if you're going to invest in it, then even just a couple of tennis balls is great for what we're going to do today. Another useful prop for us to have today is 2 blocks. If you don't have blocks, then of course you can always use your hardcover books or a Tupperware container that will give you about the same height and size that we have here. If you don't have access to any of these things, it's totally fine as well. Just the balls alone are great, and we can still work into the areas. So now, why do we want to work into our hamstrings or any part of our body with myofascial release? Well, this is quite an in-depth topic, but in particular today, well, talking just with the hamstrings, and the same applies for anywhere in the body, one of the reasons that we would like to do myofascial release is to be able to release these adhesions, these Velcro-like points within the body that sort of stick to the layers, because our body is not just a solid thing. It's made up of layers of your skin, your superficial fascia, you have your deep fascia, your muscles, and even within those muscles we have fascial layers that allow the muscles to glide. The fascia goes even deeper, it goes really to a cellular level. But what we're doing with myofascial release is we are trying to create an ease and a glide and a hydration between these tissues, so that instead of them being stuck when we're trying to move them, they can glide freely and be able to give you a better sense of ease of movement within the body. It helps to prevent injury, particularly if you are an athlete or someone who's doing a lot of sports and movement. It helps great with recovery as well, post-workout, post-activity that you're doing. So there's a lot of great reasons, and besides all of that, it just feels really nice and it's very relaxing for the body. So if you do it for no other reason, then it feels great, and you don't have to go out and get a massage. You can give yourself a massage-like feeling right at home using the myofascial balls. So if any of you are watching that know me, you know that I love the anatomy behind things. So just to give you a visual, if you're a little bit unsure of what the hamstrings look like, you know they're at your back of your leg, but what do they look like? I've got my favorite app here that's open. It's the Atlas Body, and I'll come a little bit closer so you can have a look. I've got it open here on the hamstring muscles, just to give you a bit of a visual of where we're working. This bone that you can see down here, this is the bottom of the pelvis, the sit bone that we have. Whoops, battery's going low. The sit bone that we have down there that you can feel. Often you will hear that term used in yoga, find your sit bone. This is part of the hamstring. The hamstring's actually 3 muscles that we've got here. So you can see here where it goes from muscle, turns into the tendon, and then goes to the bone. So it's attaching here. You also have another one that's deeper to this layer down here, but have a look. So it went from the pelvis, but it comes all the way down and it wraps here around the knee at the back. You see here how it's actually crossing over the joints. So that's another great reason to work into the hamstrings, so that we can give a bit more of a freedom within these joints if we are able to create that space and release the muscles. Alright, so enough talk, let's get started. Take hold of your two balls, come to sit on the mat or the floor. Actually, I'll come a bit closer to show you where we're going to place them first of all. So our first point that we're looking for is that point that you saw in the pictures at the bottom of the pelvis, where the hamstrings are coming up and they're attaching to that sit bone area. So we want to use both balls at the same time for this particular one. Of course, remember, if you only have one, you can go side to side. So let's take the ball. I'll come a bit closer here. So we're looking for, we've got the crease of the glutes that come down. We want to be sitting down. We're going to place the balls kind of at the bottom of the crease, right? Working there into where the hamstrings go. So in this center thigh underneath the crease of the glutes. That's a good landmark area to aim for when you're placing the balls first of all. So you sit down on the ground and then just move around a little. Let's find that spot. You'll be able to feel it. You might want to lift yourself up a little and then place yourself back down on the balls. Once you've found the landmark of the start of the hamstrings, let's just pause here for a moment. Give yourself a moment just to breathe. Have a tune in, focus in on the area. How does that feel? Now, one very important thing when we are doing myofascial release is we're not looking for the no pain, no gain mentality. We're looking more for a medium pressure when we're moving and when we're just holding that pressure on the ball against the skin. So we don't want to feel pain, we just want to feel a sensation. Okay, so let's place our hands down on the mat, and what we can do is rock our hips from side to side. Still with that sustained pressure, but by rocking from side to side, we're shearing here through the layers. Perhaps just a gentle rock of flexing and pointing the toes and just moving. We're moving a very small amount, just a little bit backwards and forwards. See if you find any particular area of tension. And then we're going to pause again in that space. We'll just stay here for a few more breaths. Perhaps you want to lean forwards a little bit. That's going to change the angle. It might feel as if you've got a bit more pressure into the area, but that might feel good for you today. It's really an exploration of self within the body. I can give you the map, but you still need to get there. Okay. So I'm just going to make this a short tutorial, so let's move on to the next section. We're going to move about halfway down. Now here in the hamstrings, if you remember from that visual, it gets a little bit of a wider surface area. So we can place the balls down. Now you have a few options, or a couple of options at least. You can either stay here with the legs down on the mat, and we're going to rock from side to side. If you're very coordinated, you can do both legs at the same time. I find that I get a bit out of sync. But what we're doing here is we're going for an exploration. We're looking for an area of tension. Besides just side to side, we could also rock backwards and forwards. This is easier to do with one leg at a time. And what we're doing here is we're looking for that trigger point, that area of tension. you feel a bit more sensation than you might in other parts of the body. And once we've found that, we can pause. Now another thing that you can do, particularly if you're not feeling much here, as we go down the legs, of course they get a little bit thinner, and that means that they're further away from the ground. So if you feel like you are not having much of a sensation here, you can take the block, hold the ball in place the block underneath your leg, and do the same for the other side. And then once again, if you've done that, find that area that you're wanting to work on. And then we're going to hold for a few breaths. So again, if you lean forwards, this can bring a bit more weight into the legs by the change of the angle of the body, a bit more pressure down. Perhaps even closing off the eyes, sending your breath here. And one thing that we are doing, besides just working on the fascia, is we're working on the nervous system. The fascia is rich with nerve fibers. And so by breathing calmly, not holding our breath, we can help to activate that parasympathetic state of being, and let the muscles, let the body, the fascia know that this is a safe space to be in. Give it that signal that it can relax and let go, just that little bit. So let's now rock our legs from side to side again, and perhaps even backwards and forwards just a little. If you are using the block, that can be a little tricky. You don't want to roll right off. Another thing that you could do is lift the foot up and down a little, or point and flex as you go. This can bring more of a sensation into the leg, or should I rather say a different sensation into the leg. So you're working through the muscles and the fascia layers a little bit differently. Okay, and now we're going to move on to our third spot. So we're going a bit further down. Now if you reach in here, you'll feel that you can feel those tendons, they feel hard, springy a little bit. Now we don't want to place the ball directly on those tendons, and we also don't want to place it right yet into the back of the knee. This can feel really uncomfortable. So we're looking for a space close to the knee joint, but just up from it and in between the tendons of the legs. Place the ball back down, do the same on the other side. If you're directly on the mat, you can even just roll your body back a bit so that the ball moves down. Okay, let's take a little bit of an exploration here. We don't have much side to side to go, so we can roll up and down a bit. Find that area you'd like to rest on, and pause. Now another thing to note is that if you find it difficult to get down on the floor for any reason, and it's just not something that's comfortable for you, or perhaps it's just not physically possible at the moment, you can do this sequence either using the wall as a prop, so standing against the wall and placing the ball. It would probably be easier for you to do one ball at a time, but you can place the ball going down your leg, leaning against the wall and rocking from side to side and up and down. And another option is to use a firm chair. So you want either a firm bench, perhaps a firm dining room chair, enough space so that you can sit in it and still have the length of your leg bent over, and be able to have the support of the chair but still have the firm pressure, the feedback, It could work on a couch, but you're not going to get much of a feedback there because you've got the soft cushions. So it's really better to try and find something firm to sit on. Perhaps even the top step of your house, sitting on the landing, and then having your legs coming down the stairs. Just play around with whatever you might have in your home. Let's rock the legs from side to side. So feet out and in. This is what's really great about myofascial release, is it's something that you can make accessible to anybody. There's always a way, a prop that we can use or a different position to get a very similar effect. I was recently working with somebody, we can rock up and down a little, who was having trouble being able to sit on the floor for them, or to sit at all, even within a chair. And this was coming from the tightness in the hamstrings. Let's take hold of the balls and move it to the side for now, move the blocks. And what they found most helpful was lying flat down on the mat and then using the block to bring the ground closer to them so they could get the pressure in the legs, but lying down flat, and that was much more comfortable for them. So that's even an option. Bringing the balls behind your legs again. We're going to roll up and down the legs a little. So it's probably easier to do one leg at a time, so you can use your bent leg as a lever to move up and down. And we can turn the foot out, just giving one final scrub to the fascia here. Up and down just a little. It's a pretty gentle movement here, trying to get the whole length of the hamstring. We'll move on to the other side. Rolling up and down, turn the foot out, straight, and then just a little internal rotation. There we go. And place the balls to one side, and you are done. Hope your hamstrings are feeling happy and this was useful for you. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.